The parking lot smelled like asphalt and regret, and HOA Karen's voice sliced through the evening air like a dull knife through butter. She stood there, all 300 pounds of her, arms folded tight across her chest, her bleach-blonde bob quivering with righteous indignation as she jabbed a manicured finger toward the man by the sleek black sedan. "You don't belong here," she bellowed, her voice echoing off the concrete pillars of the strip mall lot. "I know a thief when I see one." Malik Thompson, the man in question, leaned calmly against his car, one eyebrow raised, his tailored suit catching the faint glow of a nearby street lamp. He was a federal prosecutor, a man who'd spent years dismantling lies in courtrooms, but tonight, he was just a guy trying to grab takeout after a long day. HOA Karen, however, saw only what she wanted: a black man, a car that looked too nice, and an opportunity to play hero in her own twisted narrative. It started innocently enough. Malik had parked in the lot of Sonny's Market, a small grocery store tucked between a nail salon and a vape shop. He dashed inside to pick up some fried rice for dinner, unaware that HOA Karen, self-appointed guardian of the parking lot, was watching from her minivan. She'd been sitting there for 20 minutes, nursing a lukewarm coffee and a grudge against the world. To her, Malik's presence was an affront, a challenge to her unspoken authority over this patch of cracked pavement. When Malik returned to his car, keys in hand, HOA Karen was already out of her van, phone pressed to her ear, her voice dripping with manufactured panic. "Yes, 911. There's a suspicious man trying to break into a car. You need to send someone now." She paced, her flip-flops slapping the ground, her eyes locked on Malik like he was a fugitive on a wanted poster. Malik, unfazed, slipped his phone from his pocket and began recording. He'd been here before, not in this exact parking lot, but in this exact kind of moment. The kind where someone's assumptions about his skin color turned a mundane errand into a spectacle. "Ma'am," he said, his voice steady but edged with exasperation, "this is my car. I'm just trying to go home. Don't you ma'am me." HOA Karen snapped, her face reddening. "I've lived here for 15 years, and I know who belongs and who doesn't. You think you can just waltz in here with your fancy suit and steal cars?" Her words were a venomous mix of entitlement and ignorance, each syllable a jab meant to wound. The 911 operator's voice crackled through her phone, asking for details. HOA Karen, relishing the moment, doubled down. "He's tall, black, wearing a suit probably stolen. He's acting real suspicious, just standing by this car like he owns it." She smirked, as if her description was a checkmate. Malik's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. He'd learned long ago that reacting with anger only fueled people like her. Instead, he held up his key fob, pressed it, and let the car's lights flash and horn chirp. "This is my car," he repeated, louder now, for the growing cluster of onlookers. A teenage cashier from Sonny's Market, a middle-aged woman with grocery bags, and an older man walking his dog had stopped to watch, their faces a mix of curiosity and discomfort. HOA Karen didn't flinch. "That doesn't prove anything," she shouted, stepping closer, her bulk casting a shadow over Malik. "You could have stolen those keys. I'm protecting this community." Her voice cracked with the fervor of someone who believed they were the protagonist in a vigilante movie. The air grew thick with tension as red and blue lights flickered in the distance. Two police officers arrived, stepping out of their cruiser with the weary expressions of men who'd seen too many calls like this. Officer Daniels, a lanky man with a notepad, approached first. "What's going on here?" he asked, his tone neutral but his eyes scanning the scene. HOA Karen launched into her story, words tumbling out like a rehearsed script. "This man was lurking around this car, acting suspicious. I called because I'm worried about crime in this neighborhood. You need to check his ID, his registration, everything." She pointed at Malik like he was Exhibit A in her case against the world. Malik, still recording, handed over his driver's license and registration without a word. He knew the drill. Officer Daniels glanced at the documents, then at Malik's calm demeanor, and finally at HOA Karen's increasingly frantic gestures. The second officer, Officer Ruiz, stood back, arms crossed, watching the exchange with a frown. "Ma'am," Daniels said, turning to HOA Karen, "this car is registered to Mr. Thompson. He's done nothing wrong here." "That's impossible," HOA Karen sputtered, her voice rising to a shriek. "He doesn't look like he can afford a car like that. You need to arrest him." The crowd murmured, the cashier whispering something to the woman with the grocery bags. Malik's eyes flicked to them, catching their unease, but he stayed silent. Daniels sighed, flipping his notepad shut. "Ma'am, you called 911 claiming a crime was in progress. That's a serious accusation. Do you have any evidence?" "Evidence?" HOA Karen's face twisted in disbelief. "I saw him. That's evidence. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I'm telling you he's trouble." She jabbed her finger toward Malik again, her voice trembling with conviction. Malik finally spoke, his voice low but cutting. "I'm a federal prosecutor. I work for the U.S. Attorney's Office. You're wasting these officers' time and mine." He pulled a business card from his wallet and handed it to Daniels, who raised an eyebrow as he read it. The air shifted. Officer Ruiz stepped forward, his frown deepening as he looked at HOA Karen. "You called 911 because you assumed he was a criminal?" he asked, his tone sharp. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, the older man with the dog shaking his head. HOA Karen's confidence faltered, but she doubled down, as she always did. "I was protecting the neighborhood. You should be thanking me." Her voice cracked, betraying a flicker of doubt, but she pressed on. "He could have been dangerous. You don't know." Daniels handed Malik's documents back. "Mr. Thompson, you're free to go. We're sorry for the inconvenience." He turned to HOA Karen, his expression hardening. "Ma'am, making a false 911 call is a crime. You need to understand the consequences of what you've done here." HOA Karen's face drained of color. "A crime? Me? I'm the victim here," she cried, her voice a mix of outrage and panic. The crowd was no longer murmuring, they were staring, their judgment palpable. The cashier pulled out her phone, recording the meltdown, and the woman with the grocery bags whispered something about people like her. Malik, still calm, slipped his phone back into his pocket. "I'm not pressing charges," he said, his voice steady but laced with exhaustion. "But you need to think about what you're doing. You don't get to play judge and jury because of how someone looks." He opened his car door, the fried rice now cold in its takeout bag on the passenger seat. HOA Karen stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The officers exchanged a glance, and Ruiz stepped closer to her. "Ma'am, we're issuing you a warning for now. But if this happens again, you could face charges for misuse of emergency services." He scribbled something on his notepad, tore off a ticket, and handed it to her. The ticket fluttered to the ground as HOA Karen's hands shook. She stared at it, the scrawled words "false report" glaring up at her like a mirror to her soul. The crowd dispersed, the cashier muttering about posting the video online, the older man tugging his dog away. Malik drove off, his taillights fading into the dusk, leaving HOA Karen alone with her crumpled ticket and her crumbling sense of righteousness. She'd called 911 to assert her power, to prove she was in control. Instead, she'd exposed herself, her biases, her arrogance, her willingness to harm someone just to feel important. The parking lot was empty now, but the weight of her actions lingered, heavy as the humid air. She'd thought she was the hero, but the story had flipped, and she was the villain, undone by her own assumptions. HOA Karen picked up the ticket, her fingers trembling. She'd never felt so small, so seen, so utterly defeated. And somewhere, in the quiet of his car, Malik Thompson drove home, knowing he'd won not by shouting, but by standing firm in the face of her storm.